financially has mentioned in the past, and that'll kind of help you narrow down your results. I also want to talk about some other resources that we have here at UNT that I think are pretty useful, and that's just from my experience of them being easy to use and having good results. One of them I like to use is JSTOR because it has a lot of journals involved. You can do a lot of different things with it. I like to look into quotes like space weapons, and that'll return you a lot of articles. One thing I like about JSTOR is that you usually get pretty good results, and you can also download it as a PDF. A lot of places make it hard for you to access the actual articles. JSTOR also looks like if I want to read this article, which is pretty good. You can click here and it'll show you where in the article that search term is listed. So if you are searching and you're just really trying to find one card that's like space weapons violate international law or something, and you can type in space weapons, and that'll bring you a lot of articles. But you can also do within a certain limit or within a certain amount. So let's say I want to find it within 10 words of international law. Well, apparently no one writes that, so that was a bad example. But what you can do is you can use like W5, W10 in order to find like articles that have those words close together. That's really useful because sometimes authors will go into rants about one thing or another, and that'll kind of throw off your search results because apparently it's really awesome whenever you write an article to talk about nuclear war. It obviously gets our attention, but sometimes it's not really what you're looking for. So this will help you be like, nuclear war. Okay, so we said that again. Obviously, very, very bad at cutting cards. EBSCO host has a lot of different journals that you can search, and one of the reasons I like it is because the first thing it does is it asks you what you're looking for in terms of what branch of literature you're looking into, and you can select different think tanks and search engines for what you're looking for, which also helps you narrow down what you're looking for. For example, if I'm looking for articles about space weapons, I obviously don't care about European views of the Americas prior to 1750 because they didn't have space weapons and neither did we. Another sweet thing about the library is that sometimes when you're on Google, someone will you'll find a really nice article that's in a journal, but you can't get access to the journal because they want your money. I don't think anyone expects you to pay $22.50 to find an article that you might or might not cut a card in, although I guess if you're really loaded, do whatever you want. So you can go here to eJournals on the left-hand side, and it'll show you all of the journals that we have subscriptions to. So for example, I really want this article that was in International Relations about space weapons, but I click on the article and it wants me to pay them. I don't want to pay them because I'm cheap, so I go to International Security. I've already done this, so this one should actually work out well. And see, it tells me all of the websites that we have access to that have articles from that journal. It also has the date, which is really useful to see because if I'm looking for a card, for example, from 2006, I'll see that JSTOR doesn't have that, but Academic Search Complete and all these others might. So you have to make sure you're paying attention to which ones we have had subscriptions to in the past and which ones we keep current. So what I'm looking for is from 2004, so I can go here. It'll bring me to JSTOR, but it'll only bring me to this this journal, which makes it easier to search. It'll have each edition separated. So whenever the article that you're looking for has it separated by where it's found, you can go to it. I'm looking for the November, the autumn 2004 issue, because it has space militarism, militarism article, which is probably important to this topic because I'm sure that a lot of people will talk about the military, why it's awesome in space. It also has this awesome article that I think everyone should probably read because it's pretty good, talking about why space weapons would change a lot of things in international relations. I think that probably the thing that you should take away from knowing that we have all these resources is that sometimes there are things that, I know this is going to shock you, but there are some things that you cannot find on Google, and you should not just give up. I know that in my first year of camp, that's pretty much what I did. I'm not going to lie. I used Google, and then when it wasn't there, I was like, well, this file is not going to work out anymore. Time to do something else. So know that we have these resources available for you. They're free for you to use. If you're in the library, it'll automatically come up. If not, you should be getting an EU ID within the next couple of days, assuming you haven't already got this already, and you'll be able to log in not only to the EagleNet, but it'll also allow you to log into the library's electronic resources and then kind of mess around with those. So we've told you how to find evidence. That's oftentimes the hard part. I'm going to turn it back over to Amy, and we're going to talk about how to turn those articles into actual evidence.
All right, so this section on part 2 now, halfway done, guys. Almost done. So we're talking about cutting evidence and actually making that into usable evidence. The first section would be about what is a card. We're going to go over a basic understanding of what that is, what all of the things we need for you to produce evidence that is successful for the debate in general, and also ones that these components you have to for every piece of evidence that you will turn in for your files while you're here. The second part would be about parts of a complete file. This part might not be... Am I making that noise again? Yeah. How do I stop it? Is that better? Yeah. Okay, so the second part of this is not coming to me maybe as pertinent to your time here, but definitely very important to you once you go back to your respective homes and start cutting cards on your squad. Parts of a complete file, what you need for a file, obviously evidence, but things like organization, how to make these files useful, and what are some techniques that, for example, the UNC debate team has employed that we think are pretty helpful for when you're debating legalism. So first of all, what are the components of a card? What is a card? Okay, so one part's the actual text of an article, the evidence. What else do we have to have? What other? There's 2 more parts. A tag, and then one more thing. Citation, exactly. So we're going to go through all of this. So here is all my examples are going to be on this card. Here's a terrorism defense card. Kind of old now considering Obama's dead, but that's all right. Like all those news or whatever. Osama is dead. Sorry, it's not useful anymore, but they'll serve our purposes here today. So the first part is I'll talk about the text of the card. For you to actually a text of a card. What can you cut from an article? It's a trick question. What's that?
You can only cut like the stuff that's not. You can't cut in the middle of a card. You can only cut like top.
Okay, what do you mean by middle of a card?
Like if you're gonna, like part of the evidence that you're taking is from only the center of the card. You can trim the top and the bottom, but if there's a part in the top and in the bottom, you can't just like take out the middle.
Yes, that's true. Why am I making a noise? Okay, so that's true. So let's say I find, okay, so I'm going to go to the slide. So let's find out, this is the Mueller article. as part of the card, but let's say I find a piece of evidence, but I think this sentence, like right here, nor does it suggest, and I think, oh my goodness, this really makes my piece of evidence really bad. I cannot just go in and delete that sentence. In general, you should come from the point of view that you cannot change evidence in any shape, way, form. That means you don't add anything, you don't subtract anything from evidence. The way that the author wrote the article is what you should keep in mind, what their intent is. And so in that same sort of vein, you shouldn't cut cards out of context. So it's like, for example, a lot of times in articles, like the author will do like a straw man and be like, here's like what some people will say this argument and explain that, and then the majority of the article is explaining why that point of view is bad. Do not cut the beginning when they're explaining their opponent's argument. You should normally keep you should be keeping in mind what the original intent of the author is. There's two reasons for this. First, it's intellectually dishonest to not do so. It's really using the author's name in the wrong way, not the way that they really meant to argue. And the second reason is that, so if someone goes back and cuts the cards, like for example, if you use a piece of evidence like in your 1AC, and you cut like the straw man of the article, so theoretically a team would go back and like look at that piece of evidence, look at the article in its entirety to find like neg articles, and if they see that, oh my goodness, they cut the first paragraph, but there's 17 more paragraphs about like a case next to this app. You're kind of in bad shape because the other team's going to read the article and say, oh, and this is the conclusion of your article. You were wrong, you lied, not what the author is saying. So, first of all, it's kind of cheating. Second of all, you'll lose debate because you messed up. The other thing that keep in mind is when you're cutting articles, we only cut in terms of paragraphs. You can only only time you can start a card is at the beginning of the paragraph, right here. For example, where I have this red F box. So you can only cut from there. So even though in my actual component of the card, I did not start underlining until later on, I have to keep all of the text of the article. Why might that be true? Like if I only wanted to read 2 sentences of the card, why should I keep the entire paragraph? Yes? Exactly, the context. Why do you think the context might matter? Go ahead. Okay, well, don't overthink it. It's just the context is important because when other people are reading your evidence, they can go back and see exactly what the author is trying to say and try to figure out exactly that's true. On the same vein, we can only ever end our cards at the end of a paragraph. Or at the end of a paragraph. You cannot end it halfway through a paragraph. Like I cannot just say like all kind of greatly exaggerated right here. I cannot just stop there. Even if I don't want to read the last 2 sentences, I need to keep that in. Alright, so what's a tag?
Summary.
Yep, basically it's a summary of the argument that's in a piece of evidence. What are some things that we should keep in mind when we're writing our tags? What do you think? Short, to the point. We should also, normally, do you think you should put abbreviations or do you think you should fill out the whole word? Yeah, there's a couple caveats that obviously, things like SPS, you should probably abbreviate later on in the year. But, we shouldn't put like, we should not be your flowy. You have different ways to flow flow in debate. You should write out full words in your tag, just so it's usable to everyone else in your squad, or usable to your partner, things like that. So the main thing about this slide is that we work on word economy. We have a lot of drills on this about actually during debates, especially during rebuttals, how to work on not saying too many words. It's important. But we also need to work on it in our tags. And one way to work on that is to write in passive, or sorry, not passive, to write in active voice, which just means that you pretty much put the subject and the verb at the beginning of the sentence. So imperative is exaggerated. That really helps make sure your tags sound a little bit more powerful and better underneath. All right, so